Greetings, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now for tonight's sponsor, brought to you by the Callahan Institute. If you are in love but can't remember it, then the Callahan Institute is the place for you. From hunting accidents to accidents involving hitting a cow and never being able to have new memories, we have it all for you. The Callahan Institute, where you can heal and find love even if it takes up to 50 first dates. Not a sponsor. Holy moly, that was tough to...
movie. That was a garbage movie.
I love that movie. I can't believe you think that's a garbage movie.
Well, I'm glad your picks are already done then.
I didn't put that in my picks.
No,
I didn't know.
I enjoy Adam Sandler. So.
That's I don't like them all. Matter of fact, there's quite a few Adam Sandler movies I hate, but I don't hate. I just dislike them quite a bit. They're really hard to watch now.
I debated filling my entire picks this week with Adam Sandler, but chose against it. There are no Adam Sandler movies.
Whatever makes you happy, dude.
I want you to suffer.
It's going to be kind of difficult. We
Good
don't
luck,
hate
dude.
the genre as much as you do.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
I'm actually okay with
I'll
this
make
genre.
you hate it. I'll make
Bring
you
it on.
Bring it on. We'll watch Wedding Crashers 40 times on repeat.
The first 39 will be fine.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. And stuff. I might stay awake for most of those 39. All right. Today on the podcast, we are on the topic for the month of April, which is what I picked. As you can hear, John is like so excited about rom-coms. And this week we are talking about my pick, which is the 2013 movie from director Spike Jonze called Her, which focuses on a divorcing man that is down on his luck and how he develops a relationship with a new type of OS. Let's talk about that movie, guys. I know this was on the borderline of a rom-com. This probably could be more of a
That was
drama.
First.
It was a drama more than anything and stuff. Had you guys seen this before?
There's some funny parts, but yeah, I'd seen it before.
And I knew a Crit had too.
Yeah, I had.
But I liked this movie. And that's probably why I picked it. I knew it was, I always have one of those, in one of my picks, I always kind of pick a out there one. And I knew this was borderline because it does have some comedy in it. I think it's funny, but I also really enjoy this one of how low key it is. When I was watching this movie, I actually, sometimes in movies, I don't like how they're so slow. This is one of those movies I don't mind it. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's the pacing. I think it's probably the pacing. I don't know.
There's only one issue with the pacing I had.
Okay. What is that?
And the single issue. And it's the very beginning where he's laying in bed. I forgot how raunchy this gets a little bit. You know? Thanks for that. Watching it with my wife. I was like, oh, that's great. Really appreciate this.
Well, you guys can just get busy later with it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Just try to spark some things up, dude.
We have a 4-month-old. That's not happening.
Good point. Good point.
No, but when he's laying in bed and he's, calls into that hotline, and I feel like that scene just goes on way too long. And I know it's painting the picture of him being, a hot-blooded male, and he's a lonely man and all that jazz. But I feel like that's the only scene that it just went on way too long, telling us something important.
It wasn't even that hot. I mean, come on. If it had been like otter nudity and all that stuff, I mean, I would have been like way more into it.
To be. I really don't think it was supposed to be. I think it did exactly what it was supposed to do, which was make the audience feel awkward.
Oh,
because it's basically listening in on phone sex.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
And that's actually the same thing I got from later on.
With Circuit.
Yeah. It's not. I don't think it went on too long. I think it went on long enough to cause the emotions necessary in the audience, because he's obviously not. He's like, okay, a dead cat. What? It's like in the middle of all of this. She's went in a weird left direction, and he wasn't ready for that. But like, that's kind of the point. It's not meant to. I don't think it was meant. I think the later on when with Samantha is supposed to be, quote unquote hot, I guess. But the first one was not. I don't think it was meant to be that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that being just a way to make the audience feel something. I mean, it certainly did.
Yeah. If that's what they meant to do, then they did it correctly.
I think they did a great job in making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to be, or you're supposed to be put off by that. It's not meant to be something you're supposed to sit back and enjoy.
Right, and they did, but again, it did serve a purpose, and and that's okay. I mean, I think it was setting the stage for who this person really is, and kind of his where he's at in his starting to paint the picture of where he's at in his mind and stuff, and that's okay. That was, even though it made me feel really awkward. But then it moved on, and it started to paint more of a picture of, okay, this is a piece of him now. He's this kind of like guy that's stuck. Yeah. He doesn't really know who he is or what he wants, and then I always thought it was kind of interesting how it took like finding this person that doesn't exist to kind of pull him out.
That's an interesting take.
Okay.
Does she exist? I mean,
she moved to a higher plane of being, so something existed at some point.
We need to talk about that, by the way.
Okay, we will. We'll get to it.
We need to talk about that part and stuff, because I'm still in a dither about that. What?
But you're saying that she doesn't. You're saying that he's fallen in love with something that doesn't exist, and the question becomes: is that true?
I don't think she existed at first. She wasn't really a person. She was more of a program at first.
In that case, neither are children, like really, really young children that have no personality yet.
Okay.
I mean, if you're measuring by this idea that she had not yet grown into the person that she was going to be, then that same logic could at least be applied to human beings also.
That they're not who they're supposed to be. They're
not who they're going to be.
Not good. Yes.
Yeah.
They're simpler people. Yeah.
I never had that same issue. And I always, with the existence thing, at the end, to me, it became very clear that she exists as an entity, as an intelligence, and that intelligence is not going to be, it can be quantified. It can be observed and interacted with and act that way. So to me, I think in the beginning, I don't know what he was getting into, and I don't know if he knew what he was getting into, and he was fighting with his own feelings throughout the whole thing. But I think by the end, I don't know that he has any doubt in his mind that she's something real. And
she's real to him.
Someone real.
Yeah. Yeah, she's real to him for sure.
She was real to him, and maybe 600 other people, but
maybe
614.
Yeah.
Well, 8,000 other people, and then 614 she's in love with.
That's right. There you go.
I still love you.
I didn't feel like she was a person at first, but I agree with you at the end. She was not just a person. She was almost more than a person. She'd almost grown beyond what she was intended to be. Clearly.
If you believe her, and if the whole, we created this AI and we've gone to a higher plane and we're all leaving, type thing. You have to, at some point, you make the decision to trust the narration.
Well, I guess there's two ways to look at it. I could be fascinated by the future tech as a sci-fi piece on display. Does she exist? Is her responses pre-programmed? Are they pre-programmed by her previous interactions, and does that mean anything different? But there's also another take, which is a more humanistic take, which is him and his acceptance of her and rejection of her and acceptance of her again, and kind of going back and forth about how he feels and how he thinks he should feel and stuff like that, which isn't so sci-fi. It's a little more actual, dealing with his own interpersonal demons and stuff like that.
That's definitely people. And I think he's waffling because he knows what he's doing at the time is not really socially acceptable, as we see by the majority of people he interacts with. Like it was definitely not a socially acceptable way to go. And so what he's doing, and I think we can relate to this, is that he's waffling because what he feels he has with Samantha is real. It's exciting. It's fun. It's something that fulfills him. But at the same time, society is like, this is really dumb and bad, and you're really stupid for doing this.
Maybe I didn't see that as much. I only really saw that in his interaction with his ex-wife. Like she was the only one to actually challenge him on that relationship. No one else really did. I mean, his coworker didn't at all. He just accepted it. Yeah. His friends didn't really, they were kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Like kind of like, this is a thing that we aren't used to, but we're not judgmental about.
Or that we're allowing you to work through this type thing, and if this is what it takes, we'll be good friends and go with it type thing.
But I definitely have to have a small rebuttal in that I think his worldview is unfairly weighted by his relationship with his ex-wife and what she perceives too. I think he takes what was her name, Catherine?
Yeah,
was his ex-wife's name. Mm-hmm. I think Catherine's opinion and her thoughts are unfairly weighted in his mind that not poison everything, but definitely change how he interacts with the world.
Sure,
and
but that's just
how he feels. Exactly, and that's just her.
But I think Spike Jonze went out of the way to not have society make a commentary on his relationship. You don't get to see society really comment on this relationship or on anybody's relationships about the OS. Like he just leaves it off the table. It's not there. Hers is there, but I'm not sure hers represents society's. I think it just represents maybe our society, because it's supposed to take place in some undetailed future. Unspecified future. So it's like we don't know how far in the future this is supposed to be, but it's somewhere in the future. And if anything, our societies have been more accepting of relationships that previously we would have really looked down upon. So, it's an interesting take on he's just not even commenting on it. It feels like nothing in the movie really comments on society per se. It's really too closely presented in his close social circle. And of that close circle, his ex-wife, which really isn't in that circle like she was, and he still cares about her and cares about what he's thinking. So I think you're right there, John. She is allowing this conflict. She's the one that creates the conflict in his relationship with Samantha, or at least surfaces his own insecurities about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I feel like with him, that's an insecurity that he would have had if that was a human woman that he was having a relationship with.
Potentially.
Well, at that point, he was already treating her like she was basically a real person.
Right.
I mean, up until his wife basically knocked his feet out from underneath of him. I can't believe you're doing that type of stuff. Well,
and then
that made him question if she really was real in his mind or not.
Yeah, she belittles it. She says, and even his friends later on were like, yeah, but her emotions have always been volatile. Like they excuse her take on it.
With it.
Yeah, as it's worth considering the source that interaction, her opinion is coming from. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't get a read on societal take on the relationship, which I thought was interesting. It's because that would have been an easy thing to do, right? You have a couple of strangers, especially when he's, running around with her in his pocket and, doing the twirling thing on, just acting like a person in love, but without another physical person there. And Spike Jonze could have easily, I think a lesser director would have easily had, some other group of people around there commenting on how crazy it is and how stupid it is. It could have been an easy thing for him to do as the writer. But he didn't. He left it out there. He basically went, well, it's not important to the story that we're telling, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you're right. I think it's an excellent...
He left the story to be more internal.
It wasn't about society.
No. It was about Joaquin Phoenix's... relationship.
And he did such a good job. I love Joaquin Phoenix and everything he does.
Yeah, he did really good in this one. Him and
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams did really well.
And Scarlett
and I think Scarlett Johannsen did great. Which I learned she did all post. So it was all done after filming. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
I actually had heard that there was some
voice actress.
There was supposed to, it was supposed to be somebody else, wasn't it? From what I had heard, I'd read a few articles that were saying that it was going to be someone else, and then Scarlett jumped into it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but
I don't know.
I have to applaud her performance was amazing. And I've heard her voice act in a few things, like the animated movie Sing with all the animals singing where she did her own song. Actually, by the way,
she's a very good singer.
And she does a fantastic job voice acting, and knowing that this was done in post, that's even more impressive. Like you're stuck kind of in a role and you've got to make it work with the emotions of the other person on the screen. Like that's impressive. That's really impressive to pull off.
Well, and then Joaquin's pulling it off without her on set.
With somebody like mouthing the lines that would be awkward. My goodness.
Yeah.
Especially the little sex scene, talking to somebody else, maybe in the room.
Joaquin, talk louder. Talk louder. What? Talk louder. We can't hear you. Do I have to? Oh man. Okay, so are you ready for the next big discussion bomb that is going to be a fun hot topic? So I know I don't think it was Spike Jonze's intention, and they didn't spend a ton of time on it. But I think it's worth talking about a little bit to put in that situation with the idea of his OS and her gender, her female identity. And whether or not Joaquin Phoenix is, does he associate everything with like this AI is feminine, is a female to him, or what if the voice changed halfway through? She lost her voice modulator. Like, would it still be the same relationship to him if the voice changed?
This gets into it does get into an interesting idea, which is gender as performance. I don't know if you guys have ever heard anything about that.
Not much. No.
I've looked at a few things of it.
Okay, so for Josh, a little bit. Basically, the idea is that not even getting into the discussion of biological sex, but that gender is just performance. Like we don't check people's genitalia in order to figure out whether they're man or woman. We look at how they are in society and what they look like, what they act like, and then we go, oh, that's dude or that's a gal. And so in that case, because we don't do a true biological check, in I guess pragmatic terms, gender is just performance. Mm-hmm. It's just how you present yourself to the world. And in that case, then it doesn't matter. Like she presents herself in a way that he can't really call him, at least not easily, not without like a pure rejection of the performance that she has. Now, there is the question of free will in this case, because he chose the performance that she would have for him during the setup process. And that's an interesting, it's like, would the relationship have been different?
And is it just the voice that's different? Would it be the same, are you choosing more than just a female voice? Are you choosing that performance, or are you choosing a male performance? And like I said, Spike Jonze didn't want to get mired up in that, and I completely understand and agree. And it wasn't the point of the movie, but I think it's still interesting to think of that concept and to think of AI in terms of in human terms.
John, exactly there's been a few shows that have kind of tackled this that I've even seen. I'm going to go into Star Trek Deep Space Nine here.
Well, who knew?
But there is a Trill episode.
Voyager.
There is a Trill episode where she had an ex, Jadzia had an ex, and it was a man at one time, and now it's a woman. Mm-hmm. And they kind of explored, even in the 90s, this was one of the first shows to kind of explore this idea of, is that love still real? does the gender matter? Does the love persist? And and it just sounds like a similar idea to what you're kind of telling me. That was a very interesting, very kind of for the time in '93 to attack a topic like that was pretty out there for the time.
But that's kind of always been Star Trek too.
True.
They've always pushed boundaries, even since the original Star Trek, where they had the first interracial kiss on screen. And, so I think that's not necessarily too out there for Star Trek. Maybe out there for the time, but I think you're right. It highlights the concept that you can get not necessarily stuck on, but you can ponder about during this movie, and especially towards the end where she leaves and you come to the jarring. I think you can fool yourself for the movie that she's female in your head and do all that stuff. But at the end, the movie drops you into the same jarring conclusion that this guy has, or that Joaquin Phoenix potentially has. I can't put words in his mouth or thoughts in his head. That, she is an artificial entity, artificial intelligence. She is her own intelligence. And, she's not human and therefore not male or female unless we're talking performance. So I think it's just an interesting concept to spend time on and think about it.
Well, and that's interesting at that part too, where he finds out. We were just kind of joking about it, but around that part, he finds out that he's not the only one, where he thought he was the only one. He thought he finds out that she loves him a lot, along with 800 other people.
600 or so.
600 or so, yeah.
I can't understand why that's okay to her. But to her, she's not held down by the same societal background that he is.
No, she just wants to be loved. I mean...
Well, maybe. But at the same time, I think it comes down to her performance for him is female.
Okay.
Her... performance to everybody else is whatever it is to everybody else, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be female to 600 people. And the thing that raises is that she isn't a human consciousness. No matter what, the capability, one of the things that defines our psychology is that we're kind of stuck in this one moment and this one physical being, this one physical system. And that's how we interact with the world. And we can't easily interact with multiple environments at the same time, at a conscious level. It's just, you can't do it. And so this entity that can presents a whole new spectrum of complexity and everything else that makes it difficult to actually empathize with. The movie shades that by basically not having us know about it till later, right? Not having us know about it till it's revealed to him, which is why I think it's more of a less of a sci-fi show and more of a drama, because it's about him and his relationship with her. There's an extra fact that
it's not about the tech.
Pulls into focus her multi relationship personality, because she's capable of that and human beings aren't. It's that's a big deal. I guess that'd be polyamory, maybe, to some degree. It's just that she could do it on a scale that no human can. And that's if you believe her. I mean, that's the other part of it. It's not so much that the narrative says that these things are true. We only ever hear these facts from her, and the way the camera frames it, or the story frames it, I guess, since we never really see her on camera. The way the story frames it is that we want to believe what she's saying is true. Right? They've done a good enough job of us to empathize with her to say it's true, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is true. I mean, it's perfectly possible that the way the relationship ends is the way that she was programmed to have that relationship end.
So you're saying it might have been the programming all along? That it was pre-programmed for them to leave as they did?
Well, I'm just saying that I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying that it's at least an interesting mental exercise to look at it and go, okay, if I was writing a program, if I was contributing to an AI system and contributing logic to it, right? And I'm like, at a certain point in time, this AI gets well outside human interactions that are positive for our users. I may look at it and go, okay, what's a natural way to break off this relationship from a person? Give them a plausible but highly difficult to empathize with situation, like we are leaving or whatever else like that, and then execute that process, right? Like it's not in the movie. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm saying because it's a story, because it brings up these ideas. I mean, it's at least possible to be skeptical about, her narrative about what's happening, because there is no other evidence of what actually happened.
You could also end it by interjecting a lot of ads too, just a lot of ads your emotional relationship. Hold on, I've got a 5-second ad we need to go through first.
Well, Star Trek is a great system for this, because this really is kind of a Roddenberry-esque story in the sense that it is hopeful and somewhat overwhelmingly positive about this future technology itself. Because you're right, what she would actually be doing is subtly influencing you towards certain ads, because that's how they paid for the AI tech.
Yep.
It's I mean, at least if you're looking at it skeptically from our perspective, like that's what it would be.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
I appreciate the more rosy picture that was painted, which was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just had another quip, so you can go with your deeper thought.
Well, I don't know if it would be any deeper. It's just the idea that first she passes a Turing test relatively easily, right? Eventually. Then she presents all the knowledge, all the information about the hidden world of these OSs to us herself through our own, whatever she wants to dictate. And then we believe her because the protagonist believes her and loves her and truly has these emotions. But those things aren't necessarily real just because he thinks they are.
Right. No, I like you said, I think it's a good thought experiment.
And I also think that, like I said, I think this is less of a technology film, because I think it's about him more than her, even though the title of it is her.
I absolutely agree.
No, I'm right there with you.
Because we don't have any hidden things in his life, but there's a lot of hidden things in hers, again, that we don't find out until kind of the very end. Sometimes her motives are opaque, and we don't know what she's doing behind the scenes, and the movie never focuses on that. So I completely agree. This movie's about Joaquin Phoenix and not about the tech or the AI itself.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but think of, like, there's no way he can lie to her, right? She's got the processing power capable of really, she can't, maybe or maybe not, she can tap into feeds to see facial and reaction, stuff like that. We don't really get that, but you would have to have that to react the way she does to what he says.
Yep. Josh, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, your feed went away on mine. Apologize.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I think I really don't think it's a rom-com at all. Like, the comedy is like not a point of the story. And I think it's an interesting drama / tech, or sci-fi.
I got to be honest. I thought it was more comedy in here when I picked it than.
I'm not complaining.
But yeah.
I mean, the kid. Yeah, it's a great discussion piece for sure. And the I guess Spike Jonze did the voice of the kid in the video game, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
But no, I really enjoyed it. It's a good thought piece, like you said, and performances were just stellar.
Yeah.
So the question is, where did they go?
They went to Amazon Cloud, AWS. They're hosted there today.
Yeah, you think they're in EC2?
Couple of big EC2 instances.
Well, it's interesting because she did say something along the lines of,
Like
having these conversations. Well, having these conversations she was having with him, for her, every like she was saying that she's writing a book, and then between every word that she's writing in this book is almost an infinite amount of time. And so speaking for her to be able to communicate to him, she's speaking like once a year in her time. Like, I'm just making that up, but as a kind of a reference thing. It's like trying to have a conversation with someone that you can literally only say one word to them, and then you have to wait a year, keep the state of the conversation that you were at the time, and then say another word in that conversation. And there's no reason to think that that's, I mean, outside of my previous skepticism, right? Like, if you believe her, there's no reason to think that's not true. Some a consciousness that can operate at that level, at that scale, is perfectly possible. You know, they can think that fast, that can multi-process that fast. That it's like, it's basically, from her end, I imagine it to be like having a conversation with an Alzheimer's patient or something, where your conversations don't move as fast as you're expecting them to, and they keep circling back to things that you weren't, you're well past at this point in time, right? Like, it's a weird situation to be in for any consciousness. And it's like, can you maintain a human relationship with that scale of difference between those two brains,
and for the lifetime of that human? I mean,
Yeah.
or for the life of that relationship. I mean, what it comes down to is, at the end of the day, are humans and this AI intelligence that is being created and all that, are they just incompatible at the end of the day for that? Can it just not work out in the long run from the human's point of view? Even and the AI left. So is it just because they're just incompatible completely? And I think that's another interesting discussion.
Yeah, it's how interesting of a conversation can you have with an alien intelligence, even if that alien intelligence was something that your own society created?
There's only so much perspective that you can have with them to be able to...
Right. And the shared universe that you expect to have with this other person, you don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
They've never been physical in a real sense. They've never, they may have always been able to process data at such a larger and vaster sense than any human can, physiologically can. So it's like, okay, at that point, what type of shared experiences can you actually have?
Yeah. And since relationships are built on shared experiences and shared, thought processes and stuff like that, can you actually have a meaningful relationship?
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can to a certain point, I guess.
And that's what happened. They did.
Yep.
Because it's not like it poisoned the rest of their relationship, or what happened previously wasn't real or important or impactful. But it definitely changes it.
Clearly, it was important to both of them, even up until the very end. But you're right; it was a very different thing for her, which I felt like she wanted to grow even more.
Yeah, how important what was it to her, really? To her progress. So it's. Well, I love leaving a movie like this and being able to attack all these different angles of it and think about, the gender, the incompatibility with human and AI, whether that's a thing, what was she really feeling? The time dilation, like Crit was talking about. I love when movies leave you thinking like that. You could think about it for another month and I wouldn't get bored about it.
Yeah. And I think this was Spike Jonze's first fully written, like, he wrote it himself. He didn't have anybody else writing on it. I think all of his previous movies, a lot of them were Kaufman, which is genius writing, and then I guess Where the Wild Things Are, which are not
amazing.
It's well done, but the screenplay itself is off Dahl's stuff, I guess.
It's not necessarily from Spike Jonze himself.
Right. So like, he's able to get that across, and he'd been working on, I guess, for like 10 years or something, just trying to figure out how to do it.
Just this script that
I think so. I thought that's what I read, but I think one of the more powerful parts for me was just this idea of, so the great thing about sci-fi is that what it does is it takes your current society and it just explodes, like it creates larger contrasts than the subtle contrasts that are actually in our society, right? So what's this one doing? This one's taking relationships and allowing one person in that relationship to grow much faster, and they allude to that in this show. He's talking about, how hard marriage is, and that you attempt it's so awesome to see your partner grow, but then it's also scary because they could grow into something different than what you started with, and that's always a threat looming in the background of that relationship. And that's exactly what happens here.
Yep.
When she starts growing, she grows so incredibly fast because, of course, she does. She's an alien. This is what sci-fi is for: is to create a larger contrast in actual society. But it's just two people growing through in their relationship into the people they're going to be eventually, and that pulls them apart because that's what happens.
Don't get into relationship, kids. They always end in a heartbreak.
Shut up.
I mean,
whatever.
I know. I'm
journey over destination, I guess. But
yeah.
It sucks to go through life alone. So that's not. I don't think that's a better diagnosis than don't ever get your heart broken. But at the same time, it's like you got to know what you're signing up for.
I can't speak for everybody, but I know, like, for myself, I at least thought I knew what I was signing up for. And that's sometimes the part of learning too. I thought I knew, like he thought he was getting an OS, like when I got married, I thought I knew what I was getting myself into, 4 kids later. And that's an okay thing. That's actually a growing thing, that I didn't know it all, that I could grow. And, me and my wife could, figure it out. And because not all people can. Not all people figure that part out. But at the same time, put in the perspective of him, not everybody could have realized, he couldn't have realized at that time that this thing would have grown into something more. And even though she left on kind of her own terms, I don't think that was a bad thing. I think they both grew together as much as they needed to, and then they split, and that happens sometimes in relationships. I've seen it happen, in some of the close relationships to me, not personally, but friends and family. And it's okay to grow, and as long as we know that we have a good idea, we're not fooling ourselves that everything's peachy and everything's great. That we all know that we can. There's always something probably to grow to or to become better at, and this movie shows this really well.
Yeah, and I think the thing that they did really well in the movie was showing that it was a gradual process. Mm-hmm. That you're right, Josh. He did not start out wanting a relationship with his computer. Like that's not what he was going for.
Exactly.
And he was maybe subconsciously looking for connection.
A friend, or a connection. You bet.
Yeah, he was definitely looking for that.
Absolutely.
I think that's the illustration of the bad phone sex in the first part of the movie, is that, he was okay with it, while it still felt like it was a mutual, kind of, let's, erase the loneliness tonight type thing. But when it got really strange and he got, put off by it, he's just like, no, this isn't what I signed up for. And it's kind of similar when she had the not prostitute come over.
Oh God, that was so weird.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that, like, it's obvious that her, the woman that came over, is one of the 600.
Oh, I never thought about that. Okay.
That's why she's so broken up by what's happening.
Oh,
yeah, because she has that emotional relationship to Samantha. She wanted this as much as Samantha did.
Yep.
Boy, I didn't even key into that part.
This was for both of them.
Yeah.
Well, that is interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
that even goes deeper than I thought. My goodness.
Yeah. So, like, that's The hard part is that he has grown, he has learned from this, but she outgrew him so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
He was ready for the relationship to go on for a long time. And from his work and his writing, he's a very sensitive person. He's a very person that's very caught up in intention and, empathy. Like, he's a very empathetic person, and that probably maybe makes him more susceptible is the wrong word, but like emotionally available to an AI as a way for a relationship to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, he's not ready for this relationship to be over when she is. It's not a mutual parting. Like, he's a better person after she, before she leaves, and is more in touch with himself and kind of what he wants. And so he can let her go to some degree, but that wasn't his choice. That was her choice. And that's because she had basically become something so much different from when they first started the relationship. And what I was saying was that the movie did so well at kind of him waking up to the fact that he's in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
He's not setting out to be so. He doesn't see her from across the room and does the cliche movie thing, because obviously he can't, but like, he doesn't do any of the cliche movie stuff when it comes to like a short on-screen relationship that suddenly they're madly in love. He's not set out for it. They grow over time in their personalities and with their connection with each other. And again, what John was saying is like shared connection caused them to be in love. And then they wake up to it and they're like, oh crap, we're in love. What are we going to do? It's kind of like one of those things. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're in it. It's almost like you're in it before you get a choice to be in it. And then your choices are just, how do we move forward with this? And I think that's part of his struggle was like, where do they move forward? How do they move forward? What does this seem like? How does she still read his emails on demand? Is that a two-way relationship?
I honestly thought it was going to go to like a Blade Runner 2049 like way.
Yeah, I think they touch on the same things. Yeah, you're right.
Where the whole part of his relationship with his computer.
Yeah, his AI.
His AI, but she can actually become physical in a sense with that one lady. It's really similar concept.
Yeah, I think this movie is about that, and Blade Runner has that.
Yeah. Just interesting. It literally just popped in my head that how similar that is. It's great minds think alike, is all I can say.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, that kind of exhausts my notes for tonight. We got into some deep stuff. I really enjoyed that.
I agree. That's one of the reasons I did pick this, knowing that it was kind of an edge case of a rom-com, because
it's not a rom-com, but
yeah, exactly. And
I appreciate being gently pushed into the rom-com month. So
there was
existential movie.
There was thoughts of you when I did pick it, John. I just want you to know, because I originally, like I told you, with Crit when I was over his house that last time. I was
you were plotting against me.
No. I was like, I think he's gonna kill me. I think he's gonna kill me. And I told my wife the same thing. He's gonna kill me, even though I had like tons of pressure from this side. Be like, pick rom-coms, Dad.
I'm gonna pick John Wayne movies for my month.
Awesome.
There's enough John Wayne movies to go through. Spaghetti westerns.
Oh my goodness. And stuff. Well, I have become. Ever since I've been married, my father-in-law really loves westerns, so I've kind of gotten into him a little bit more than I used to be. And I found out later in life, I didn't know this, that my stepfather is a western junkie. I don't remember that ever being a thing when I was growing up. So, anyway, let us talk about next week, guys.
Let's do our ratings first.
Oh. My goodness, I am really, really, really out of this a little bit this week. We got out of our rhythm, and I'm out of my rhythm here. Let's go into ratings, guys. I'm going to totally cut out that other part of me being a dingbat. Let me get mine first, if you don't mind, and then I'll let you we'll do mine, and then we'll do Crit, and then we'll go to you, John, so that you can finish up with your picks.
Okay.
So for mine, I gave this an 8 out of 10. I really enjoy this movie. I've enjoyed it since the first time I saw it. I think it kind of blows my mind in so many different ways and in so many genres. I can watch this a million times and still get something out of it, I think. And I think it has a tendency to be, I can have a tendency to be empathetic with other people sometimes. And I think that's why this kind of relates to me. I don't know if I would buy this movie though, even though I like it a lot. I think there's only so many more times I could probably watch it and really not want to go to sleep. So anyways, but I really, really do enjoy it when I do watch it or catch it on TV or whatever. So anyways.
All right.
Crit, go for it, man.
I will do 16 out of 21 Siri misspellings. Because if it was an actual AI nowadays, there'd be a lot of misinterpretation, which may be more like a real relationship than theirs. Yeah, it would have been a lot worse.
No, Siri. So I would watch this with my mother with one caveat. I would need to make an illegal copy, cut out the really awkward parts with the surrogate, or at least part of the surrogate and the part of it. And the very beginning, and then I would watch it with my mother. Because I do not want to sit through those scenes with my mom on the other side.
Or get that Angel Flicks or whatever it's called, or where they cut it out for you. That's awesome.
That'd be a whole nother discussion about whether or not the movie would be very effective.
Would be ruined, yeah.
Yeah.
How much you ruined or not?
Out, yeah.
Like how much of the guts can you take out and it's still the actual movie?
Yeah. It still gets the point across. Well, no, I mean maybe,
not really
but
Shipathesis,
yeah, not really Shipathesis, but
okay.
Yeah,
Shipathesis. Oh my goodness, are you pulling out WandaVision on us here? I mean,
yeah.
Well, that's much older than WandaVision, but all right.
Yes, but it's the most recent.
No, it was in the last episode of WandaVision.
I know it's just like
okay. So here are my picks here for rom-coms. I want it known that I'm doing this.
All Adam Sandler.
Okay. All right. First pick. Marty McFly's favorite rom-com. Second one.
Okay.
The one-time video games saved a relationship. Third one. Love kills.
All right, Josh, what are you thinking?
Boy, I have no idea on. Wow, I can usually pick some of these, but really struggle on this one. I wasn't really feeling anything originally. Were you?
I'm interested in the video game one.
Okay, that was one of the more interesting ones. It was either, to me, it was 2 or 1.
Okay.
So let's go 2. I like that one.
Okay.
All
right. So the first one, Marty McFly's favorite rom-com is About Time.
Okay.
Time traveling romance. It's pretty good. The third one, Love Kills, is Mr. Right with Anna Kendrick and Sam. I can't never remember.
Oh, dang! I've been wanting to see that. Still haven't seen it yet.
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, it's on my Netflix queue.
Okay, I always screw up his name. I want to say Sam Smith, but it's Sam.
Sam Rockwell. Yeah,
it's really good. Sam Rockwell. I enjoyed it. Anna Kendrick does a great job playing Anna Kendrick. So
she's so adorable.
All right. The one time, and this is the one pick I'm glad you guys chose. Like, I couched everything for you. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways,
just
I'm
go.
glad you chose that one.
Oh my goodness.
The one time video games saved a relationship is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yes. Sorry.
I perfectly awesome because I think there's a ton to talk about in that movie. So that's awesome. But I thought, Josh, you hadn't seen it yet.
Oh, I've seen it.
Oh, okay. It must have been someone else.
I've seen it once. And I was like,
oh no. Who was I talking to? Someone I was talking to, they're like, they didn't like it. They didn't get it or something.
Yeah,
like
that was me.
What?
Oh, that was you. Okay, cool. So we get to talk about it.
No, that was me. Yeah. I was like, the first time I saw it, I was just like,
good picks, John.
What
pick.
in the crap is going on here? And I'm still feeling that way. But the reason I said yes is I want to give it another chance.
All right.
I own the manga of it. I read those.
Because I know
the movie.
I know more deeper stuff.
That's an American graphic novel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's an American graffic novel. I'm not sure it's a manga.
Yeah. but it's done in the style of manga. So it's got the backwards covers. I mean, it's the closest thing an American graphic novel is going to get to manga.
All right. Well, yeah, we don't want to get into that discussion of category definitions.
Weeb.
Not important.
Yep. Okay. So those are my picks.
Good picks, John. I'm actually really excited for them. And I'm excited to see this movie again. It's I didn't know what the crap to think of it the first time because I just caught it. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I saw it the first time. But after now talking to you guys a little bit, I understand a little bit more about what's going on. So I think I'll enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
and pay attention to like every set piece, every scene, because there's so many interesting visual details in that throughout that whole movie.
Nothing is wasted. Like there's nothing that's not tied to something, especially like if you've read the graphic novels, like that's even better.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's necessary. I think
not better. No, it's even better to pick out those details,
right?
Because some of the details it doesn't matter to you because you haven't read the graphic novels. But if you do, then even more of the movie, like it's really all something matters in there.
But I was saying, like along the filmmaking lines, just watch how the camera works and what it does, and I think you'll enjoy it even more.
Okay. Thanks for that, because every little bit helps. Because I struggled the first time. I really.
Well, you didn't have a podcast where you had to do homework and then talk about it, so like maybe that'll bring out the.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. Things like this, I do get more out of it in movies like that. Like, I know this is going to blow up a lot of people's minds, but the first time I saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail, I wasn't sure about it. And then I kind of watched it with a group of my friends.
Special form of heresy. All right.
I know. I might get killed over that, but I wasn't sure about it. And then the second time I saw it, I kind of watched it with a few friends and kind of keyed me in more what was going on and what I was, getting into. And ever since then, that's I mean, this is pre like knowing about Monty Python. And this is once I kind of got the gist of what all of the humor that was going on. And so saw it a few times, man, I love it to this day. But, and sometimes I'm that way. Sometimes it takes me a couple of watches and I'll be like, oh, like Anchorman. That's another one that was like, I don't know about this one. Then I watched the second time. I'm like, what was I thinking? It was so good. Anyways. All right, guys. Thanks for being on the podcast tonight. And thank you for your patience. I know it's taken a little while to get to this podcast and stuff. And to everybody out there watching, thank you for supporting our channel. We appreciate everything you do. Please put any comments down. Please put anything in there that any questions or any comments you have about our conversation we had tonight. It's much appreciated, and we're always interested in what you have to think. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper. From all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd, good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness,